Greetings, viewers. 3 videos for you today. The very first is on the latest edition of Uplink. Episode 5 is up. And 2 main articles in this issue. One is on 4A's Metro Exodus. So 4A is a Ukrainian developer that has created the Metro series. It's a post-apocalyptic open-world science fiction franchise, and one of the very best in terms of the storytelling. It has some similarities with Bethesda's Fallout. So it has a lot of the same elements. You're part of a band of survivors. You have to find out what happened to the former human civilization. You're battling mutants. You're scavenging for technologies. And yet there are a ton of tonal and character differences, and the kinds of storytelling are very, very different, which we'll get to in a second. The other article is about China's media culture. It's independent media culture, and since 2001, one would have to say digital music culture. China not widely appreciated for actually having one of the most interesting independent music cultures on the planet. Few people know about this. I think Michael Pettis has done a fair amount to publicize this, and there are others that have tracked this story, but something that more people should know about. There are great music and great bands and great music artists coming from China these days, because it's a country that's gone through enormous changes in a short amount of time. That's unleashed a great deal of productivity. So just to briefly resume what 4A did with Metro Exodus. It's a fantastic video game. The initial release had the usual. 4A, by the way, is not a huge developer, so they had limited time to polish the game. So the launch had the usual problems of bugs and so forth. Most of those have been fixed, so it's a much more stable game. The kind of storytelling, though, that it delivers to the open world science fiction form is really unique. There aren't many franchises that do this well. Fallout has tried to do this, but not too successfully. When Fallout is most serious, it's actually least successful, and when it's least serious, it's often most successful. And the problem with that is there's nothing really funny about the apocalypse, so it's this gallows humor. And there's only a limited stockpile of that, because at a certain point it just becomes parody. In terms of gameplay, this is the classic problem that all the Fallout games, when they don't work, they become looty-shooty. So you loot, shoot, loot, shoot. You don't care about what's going on, and the narrative experience breaks. Metro Exodus solved this problem in a very different way, because it's not looty-shooty. What it is endurance scavenge. Endurance scavenge. There's a lot of threats in the game world to your character's life. You have to be very cognizant of those threats. You also have to make intelligent decisions about the communities that you meet. And the moral choices are much more gray and not simple, and you have to make decisions sometimes that is this the right thing to do? There's a kind of a moral complexity there, which is a little reminiscent of CD Projekt's storytelling in its Witcher series. Most of all, the 4A games, and particularly with Metro Exodus, are really savvy about post-Soviet politics. So they're using the science fiction frame to talk about the internal contradictions and conflicts of the Soviet Empire and its legacies. How do you battle against these legacies? How do you found a new and better society? How do you deal with these legacies? Do you let them explode and fester, or do you go in a new direction? And 4A, much like Ukraine, has chosen to go in a new direction where there isn't a certain ending, but it won't result in catastrophe of the past. Something new is going to happen. So highly recommend the game. Go ahead and read the article. It's behind a paywall, but all these things will be released 3 months from now, so you'll eventually get to read it. Second article, China's independent music culture, which is a marvel in its own right. And there's sort of a running joke about China's Great Firewall. It's not always designed to keep foreigners out. It's also designed to prevent foreigners from appreciating the wonderful things happening inside of China. And there's something very specific about the rulers of China are, of course, the plutocratura. So they're a plutocratic bunch with 1 foot in the nomenclatura and 1 foot in the new plutocracy. 300 billionaires that basically own everything in China and run the place as a capitalist dictatorship. And the ordinary people of China don't like this. They're struggling against this. And one of the ways that they're resisting is by creating fantastic music. So the music itself, even when they're not openly political in the music, the very creativity, the charm, the wit, the ingenuity, that they take all these forms from other cultures. They take blues and R&B and hip hop and electronica and reformat it and reinvent it in an indigenous turn and make it speak to the issues of the day. So the article talks a little bit about that history and provides some of the context. And I also provide some of the lyrics, which are some of the most stinging independent poetry emerging in China today that are fairly explicit about some of the problems that China has to struggle with right now. So